All right, good morning, and thank y'all for joining us on our November 10th Beef Brunch News Update. My name is Ashley Edwards, and with me are Jason Holmes and Vince Desatel. And I'm going to let those two do most of the talking today on some market reports and weather updates and field conditions throughout the state. But I do want to make one point really quick. If you've been listening to us, we've been releasing these news updates on Mondays, but we are going to shift that. So our news updates are going to start being released on Tuesdays. We'll have them out by 10:30 on Tuesday mornings. Those are coming out in video form on YouTube. That's LSU Ag Center-Livestock. On our Beef Brunch website, which is lsuagcenter.com / beef brunch. I had to think about that. And then also on podcast forms. So if you search your favorite podcast sites, Apple, Google, Spotify, any of those, just search for Beef Brunch Educational Series and you'll be able to find those as well. So we're going to start it out with Jason, if you don't mind talking a little bit about weather and field conditions here in North Louisiana.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We are starting to dry out just a little bit, which is not a bad thing. We've still got some guys trying to catch up on ryegrass planting, so that's not a bad thing. But we've only gotten about a trace over the last 5 to 7 days. But the field conditions are still very good. We got some really cool air last week, which will greatly start slowing down that Bermuda grass that was out there, and that's one of the things that's been hindering a lot of our progress going forward with ryegrass was just the amount of Bermuda grass that we had standing out there. So those cool nights last week will hopefully really start slowing that down to where we can start getting some really good production on that ryegrass. But overall, we dried out a little bit over the week. Really not a lot of chance of rain over the coming 7 days in terms of significant rainfall. So it looks like we'll continue to be able to get out there and do the necessary field work that we need to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Vince, how does it look over in your area?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley, for having me today. Yeah, in Central and South Louisiana, considering what we went through from August through October with the hurricane situations, our weather pattern has been somewhat mundane, so to speak, because it's been pretty quiet, pretty dry for our part of the country. Fortunately, yesterday on Sunday and Saturday in areas we had some rain that came up from the southeast that helped some situations out greatly. But as Jason mentioned about the cool weather, we saw a light frost on last Monday morning. So that has kind of knocked some annual grasses, kind of slowed them down greatly. So we're seeing where a lot of, we're getting those, we got those showers the last couple of days, haven't been dry. We got ryegrass stands up, looking good. So we were in need of a rain. But with that being said, we're moving into a good situation, where producers are beginning to feed hay and supplement, their fall calving groups of cattle. So, we're in a pretty good situation going into it. We got 82, 83 degree weather anticipated for the next couple of days ahead of the next front.
Awesome. I know I've enjoyed the sunshine at least today for just a little bit when I was outside. Do you want to touch a little bit on what some of the producers are doing in terms of their fall calving cows and those sorts of things?
Yeah, in South Louisiana, we have, we pretty well have somewhat of a split calving season, mostly spring calvers, but we do have a considerable number of producers that use the fall calving season, calves being born September, October, November, to take advantage of that spring calf market, which sometimes offers some incentive to, the prices are generally a little bit higher in April and May than you sometimes see in October and November. So we're calving now. With the frost we had last week, we're seeing some supplementation going out. Whatever form of liquid feed they choose to use, it's time to get some out there, because our summer forages have turned from a brilliant green to a pale yellow in the last 5 days. So we want to make sure those cows got the nutrition they need Also, bulls going into the breeding season, we need to keep those bulls supplemented, and also have them ready for the breeding season with extra nutrition, and have that BSE perform ahead of breeding season, because we had a lot of issues with mosquitoes following the hurricane, so we had some stressed animals. So make sure your bull battery is in check and ready to go for when the breeding season rolls around. As far as update on ryegrass, I mentioned that briefly previously. The ryegrass looks good. We've got a lot of good stands. We did lose some ryegrass to some of the big rains following Hurricane Delta, but producers were able to get in and get those replanted. And we're seeing some emergence there with the warmer conditions, and these little rainfalls we had the last couple of days will greatly assist in that. We want to touch base on, we have a world of buttercup in South Louisiana, Central and South Louisiana, and it's starting to emerge with a vengeance with this warm weather and some fertilizer going down in some of these plantings of ryegrass and winter wheat mixtures. So we can treat those with a light shot of 2,4-D at about a half pint per acre, and we can still manage to keep our white clover going at those rates according to our recommendations from LSU. So we want to keep those things in check, as the cost of production hasn't gone down in the area of ryegrass, and we want to make sure we got our best money spent on growing ryegrass and not buttercup. So that's about all I have at this point.
All right, thank you. Jason, I'll turn it over to you and let you go ahead and tell us the markets. I know probably several people have been looking at that between Monday and today, and what all they're looking like.
Yeah, there's been a good bit of changes just seems like over the weekend. We had a lot of changes, but I think a lot of those driving forces, one, if you look at the precipitation that they got over the portions of Oklahoma and Kansas from that, I guess they called that an early winter storm in late October. So on our last news update, we had talked about the fact that they were getting into some pretty serious drought conditions in the areas where a lot of those wheat grazers go to in that Oklahoma, Kansas area. So the Oklahoma drought monitor, I looked that up this morning. So last week they were at like 52% in D0 to D4 drought. Today's drought monitor showed them that they're down to like 26%. So that's a pretty significant jump whenever you talk about decrease in drought conditions. With a good bit, the majority, over 80% of that wheat crop that's already been planted. And the last numbers that I saw, I think Dr. Darrell Peel there at Oklahoma State said that about 72% of that wheat crop has already emerged. So whenever you have that kind of emergence already, you get some moisture on it, you're going to get a pretty quick jump in quality. So their crop progress report showed that they jumped to 34% from 11% the prior week in terms of good to excellent. So that wheat crop last week, good to excellent, 11%. This week, 34%. So that's very good for our feeder and calf market, because those folks have somewhere to go with those cattle that are not they're not quite ready to go into the feed yards. We depend on that wheat crop to be able to sustain those cattle. So that's really good. I guess the other side of that, I'm sure most everybody has already heard that on Sunday night, Pfizer announced that they've got a 90% effective vaccine that they'll start rolling out in 2020. I'm not going to quote the number of doses that they said they're going to have, but it's into the millions of doses that they'll have available in 2020. And how that's going to play into the beef markets, I think that's still a lot to be said in terms of, is that going to make folks feel safe enough to get back out into the restaurants? We need the restaurant business to pick up a lot of that beef. So I think there's still a lot of questions in terms of how that's going to play into the beef markets. But certainly they have made the markets respond. My opinion is just in terms of the environment and the weather and the rainfall that we've gotten has made the calf market respond a good bit over just the announcement of a vaccine. But we'll look at the markets, and they are very optimistic compared to where we were the last time we had one of these updates. In the 5-area feeding region, fed steer negotiated cash sales closed the week 101 to 107. That's about $1 higher than a week ago. Most recent quotes show December futures were trading up $3.25 at 111. February up $3 at 115, and April up $2.45 at 118. So just as comparison, our last recording was on October the 23rd, and those futures are up $7 to $9. 5 to 600 pound steers, medium and large ones and twos, sold between 125 and 158. Pretty big spread there, so that's steady to about $32 higher than a week ago. So and that right there tells you that those folks are responding. That calf market is responding to that jump in the potential of our wheat grazing. 700 to 800 pound feeder steers, medium large ones and twos, sold between 123 and 129. So that's $3 to $16 higher than the previous week. November futures currently trading up $4 at 141. January up $5 at 140. And March up $4.95 at 140. So again, as comparison from our last recording, that's up $12 to $15 in the futures from October the 23rd. Our lean cull cows remain steady from the previous week, steady to about 5 cents higher. So they were ranging from 41 cents to 51 cents between Mississippi markets and Oklahoma City markets. So on our feedstuffs, most everything trending slightly higher to steady, no real big significant jumps. So soybean hulls are trading steady at $115 a ton. Soybean meal is trading $6 lower at $393 a ton. Corn gluten feed is up $10 at $5.45. DDG's up $10 at $170. Rice bran is steady at $125. Cottonseed meal is steady at $320. Whole cotton seed is up $5 at $250. And then corn is trading up a cent at $4.15 a bushel. And that corn has been running around $4.15, $4.16 to $4.18 over the past couple of week periods. So no major changes in our feedstuff. So we do get a WASDE report out tomorrow, so that those projections may change a little bit in terms of our grain markets. But that's we'll wait to see on that one, and maybe that'll give us something to talk about in our next news update. That'll cover the markets for this go around, Ashley.
Awesome, thank you. Just a few things to wrap up really quick. USDA sent out an announcement on their internship program. So it's called the One USDA Internship Program. They have these each summer. So this announcement is for summer of 2021. This is for, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly, high school age through about graduate school level. These internships are for different occupational fields like administration and office support, biological sciences, engineering, architecture, financial management, IT, and veterinary science. So if any of you have kids, or if any of you are in college, grad school, and listening to us, you can look this up. I will have all of the links that we've mentioned today in the description for both this video and the podcast form, but it's usda.gov/internships. And those are going to be due on November 16th. So it's a pretty quick turnaround there. You've got about a week to do it. But I know several college kids that have gone through this, particularly on the veterinary science side, and have really, really enjoyed it. So I encourage you to share that information with some of our younger producers and those interested in those fields. Then the other thing to mention, our webinar for this month is Dr. Gary Hay who is coming in at 10:30 today, Tuesday, November 10th. So he will be talking about tips for selecting bulls for natural service. And that webinar will be posted on all of our Beef Brunch sites, so our general website, the YouTube channel, and in podcast form. I hope to have that up by this Friday. We've got a couple of events going on at the Hill Farm this week, so I'll be a little delayed in getting that out, but it should be up by the end of this week. And with that, just a reminder that these news updates are going to be starting to come out every other Tuesday. They'll be out by 10:30. And we are leaving a link to a survey for the news updates in the description. We'd love to hear your feedback on this. If there's any information that you want us to cover, any suggestions that you have, please take just a few minutes. It's like a 3-minute survey to fill that out so that we can work on improving this programming in the future. And with that, we hope that you all have a great week. We will be back with you on November 24th, the week of Thanksgiving. Thank y'all.